Welcome to Enlightened Evolution.
I'm Cay.
And I'm Christina.
We're here to discuss the ebb and flow of our soul's healing and transformation through self-reflection, choosing intentionally, honoring thyself, and following your inner guide.
Thank you for joining this safe space with us. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Enlightened Evolution with Cay and Christina. We hope that you are doing very well today. We got a little bit of a heavy topic this week. We're going to talk about grief. Cay, do you got any plans today or coming up? Anything fun?
Tomorrow. So my grandma's in a rehab center, and it's probably going to be long term. She didn't fully get back the strength that she needed to go home after her hip replacement. But she's in a very nice facility, so she can transfer good. So today we're taking her back home. Well, not today. Tomorrow we're supposed to do like a family dinner and take her back home for a few hours. And I'll probably get like some Halloween crafts to do with the kids and, stuff like that. So that's pretty much my plans for today. It's a beautiful Saturday. It's like 50 degrees. I'm thinking about going like for a walk in the woods, and then it's supposed to rain later. So I'll probably just come home, cook some dinner, do the whole mom thing. I love being at home and spending time alone and just pulling back and calling back my energy after working multiple days in a row. I slept for took like a 4-hour nap yesterday. And at first I was like, oh my God, I was not productive today, but quickly changed my mindset that I needed to just rest. And so that's what it is, a resting organization, take it easy type of day, type of weekend.
Same.
You too?
Yeah. My plans exactly.
Good. Then I'm excited for therapy next week. I gotta, what? I feel like I gotta get my oil changed all the time. It just happens.
I do too. Quick. I'm like, I just did that.
Yeah. And then my PSI on my tire's going low, and there's a fucking nail in my tire. So I gotta figure that out with my rims. Yeah, I know.
Oh.
But I mean, it could be worse. I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Do you have any kind of like tire warranty or anything?
Mm-hmm. I do. And so I need to figure that out.
Nice.
Yeah. I need to be more productive and figuring out like what resources I have to pay for things, because I don't want to pay for something I don't have to, because I know I got insurance on them bad boys.
Girl, I feel you. I almost went and bought tires on my car and forgot totally that I have an extended warranty that covers my tires.
That's wild.
And I was like, what? I was about to spend this much money and I can get it for free.
Right. So
we forget about those things.
Yeah.
So grief it's complex. I think we all experience it, and we experience it for different reasons. I think the number one reason people think of is like death, and absolutely you experience grief with death, but you experience it with other losses of relationships, friendships. I've grieved people that are still alive because maybe they're so far off in substance abuse, and like I know what the inevitable outcome is going to be, and kind of already cut my ties and kind of grieved the relationship and who they were and all of that.
Yeah, you can't take people with you sometimes. That's okay. One of my favorite things, I heard this a long time ago, but Queen Elizabeth said, grief is the price we pay for love. And so somebody doesn't necessarily have to die for you to grieve their absence. I think I think as years have gone on, I don't want to say the world is like hardened me, but after you experience a lot of traumatic things, I do think that after a while, I don't know if it makes you numb, or I don't know if that's the right word or not, but I kind of relate grief to attachment. And it's
Mhm.
much easier for me to detach now and find acceptance that this is no longer in my life because that's just where it needed to go. Or, I mean, if someone passes away, I've fortunately haven't lost anybody. My Nana was probably the most crippling,
Mhm.
and maybe some romantic relationships, but thankfully, I haven't lost anybody close to me, like my parents or my children, or so I don't know what that type of grief would feel like. I don't know, what that experience, would do to me.
Mhm.
And I don't think the attachment would necessarily play a part in that type of situation, but when it comes to, losing jobs, losing friends, and losing romantic partners, I think my attachment has kind of not been so, gripping.
Yeah. I've got a list of different ways that grief can manifest within us.
Do you wanna do the
And
5 stages of grief first? Do you have the 5 stages of grief?
yes, I do.
Can we do the 5
Let's do
stages?
that.
Okay.
Yes. So there is denial.
Yes.
So
And
that's usually the initial stage, and people have difficulty accepting the reality of the loss that it's even happened. I see this a lot. This is usually where I see my mom. Maybe not so much denial, more avoidance, I think. Like when my grandmother died, her mom died. She's just like, let's keep. We were on a family vacation and we were like, had all these things we were doing that day, all these different activities. And my mom's just like, yep, okay, well, we're going to this ghost adventure and we're going to this and that. And I'm like, bro, your mom just died.
she died unexpectedly while you guys were on this trip?
It was somewhat unexpectedly. So she was in the hospital,
Mhm.
was not doing well. And my mom actually went and visited her before she came and joined me, and we went on a family vacation.
Gotcha.
We were hoping she would get better, but it was more one of those things of like removing life support. And
Mm.
that was a whole nother conflict because my aunt wanted to remove it. My mom didn't. I told my aunt to remove it because my grandma had been suffering for too long. So
Yeah.
that was a
Yeah.
lot.
I think, yeah, denial, I think, is like a reaction to, like, overwhelming, like, being able to rationalize overwhelming feelings.
Oh yeah, it's a defense mechanism. It
Mhm.
shows up because it's so much to process at once. Our body's reaction is, "Whoa." Like, no, this didn't happen until we
Yeah.
can kind of move past that.
Yeah. The next one is anger. Uh, like, as the numbing effects of the denial stage of grief begin to wear off, the pain of the loss starts to, like, firmly take hold, I think, as we search for blame or we feel intense guilt and we just start lashing out.
Yeah. And it's also a way for our body to kind of express that deep pain of the loss
Mhm.
or injustices that might have been associated with the loss. I definitely felt this when my dad passed.
Mm.
Um and I hold on to a little bit of that anger still. Um it's something I'm working through, but it all depends on the circumstances of the loss that you're grieving. I think for some of those people that I've grieved that are still here, I'm angry with them of like not now, but like at that time of
Yeah.
how could you do this? Like how could you become this person? Those types of
Yes.
things.
In these stages that we're mentioning, you don't just go through them 1 through 5. You can, like, ebb and flow through each one, through different
Yep.
times, through different triggers, and it's okay to get stuck in
You can
one
skip
and
some.
yep, for sure. Number 3 is bargaining. The what if stage of grief is it serves as an important purpose. It provides a temporary escape from the pain, providing hope, and gives a person time to adjust to the new reality of the situation. A lot of things I hear is like people trying to bargain with God. Like, God, I promise I'll do X, Y, and Z if you'll just allow, my wife to survive this cancer, something like that, be an
Mhm.
example.
I remember experiencing this a lot with the loss of my cat because
Mm.
she died of heart failure and it wasn't something we discovered until it was end stage. I felt extreme guilt
Mhm.
and I kept thinking if only I had taken her, if only I had, and I'm like, I finally came to the realization I'm not a veterinarian. I don't know these signs to look out for. Like, I wasn't to blame, but I put a lot of blame on myself.
Yeah, for sure. And didn't you say that she also, like, hated the vet? So who wants to
She did.
Yeah, I
She
had a
had an
cat like that.
extreme anxiety.
Yeah, I had a cat like that too, and it was like, I'm putting so much stress on this poor cat. They're pissing all over their self. They're
Yep.
absolutely turned into, like, a demonic version of them I don't meet when they see the vet. It's like, you're
Yeah.
not doing them it's almost doing them an injustice even making them go, so, yeah.
Ugh.
I know.
Yeah.
Number 4 is depression. It's I think the form of depression that grief brings isn't the form of, like, the mental illness in certain people who are depressed. It's an appropriate response to a great loss. You just experience this intense sadness, decreased sleep or increased sleep, reduced appetite, loss of motivation for common things that you usually do in your everyday life.
Yeah, and
And
it gives you the ability to slow down and kind of reflect on what's happened and kind of
Mhm.
come to terms with things.
Yeah. And 5 is acceptance. Just you're accepting the reality of the loss and nothing can change that reality. It doesn't mean that you're okay with it. It's just you're at peace with it.
Yeah. And a lot of people struggle to come to this stage.
Mhm.
It can be hard. I'm trying to think if I've ever not been I think I've always been able to work towards acceptance.
Yeah.
I can't think of a time that I didn't. But it sometimes takes a long time to get there. I remember
Mhm.
a girlfriend at work, she was asking me her husband's mom had recently passed away, and she's like, "He just sits on the couch and, like, looks at pictures and videos of her and just cries," and I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "But it's been months," and I'm like, "It's okay." Like, grief is different for everyone,
Mhm.
and it lasts shorter or longer for different people. We all process it differently, and it's really important not to judge other people's grief.
Yeah.
Some of these manifestations we've kind of already mentioned with the stages, but some emotional manifestations, of course, sadness, anger, guilt, we mentioned. Also, anxiety about future things. Maybe
Mhm.
the loss was a catastrophic, maybe someone died in a car accident or something like
Yeah.
that. And you have this constant fear of it happening again. Also numbness, which kind of comes in with depression as well. We start to kind of just become numb to the world around us. Our body and our nervous system is overstimulated at that point.
Yeah.
Some physical manifestations, you might see fatigue, just being extremely exhausted, changes in appetite, like you mentioned, health issues. So, prolonged grief could actually contribute to or exacerbate health conditions. Jordan had a friend, and I've seen this in the emergency department before. People have broken heart syndrome.
I
A
was
lot
gonna
of
say
times that
that. Mhm.
yeah, a lot of times that happens with spouses. And usually when I would see it in healthcare, I would see it, with older couples that had been married for many years. But Jordan's friend was very young and she passed away. And then her husband ended up passing away very shortly after from broken heart
Mhm.
syndrome. And it's basically a cardiac condition to where your body is just so overwhelmed with the amount of grief that you're experiencing that it can kind of manifest almost like a heart attack. Some people survive it and some people don't.
Yeah.
Very
I remember this one specific patient, she had that from losing her son. Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Mhm.
The other physical manifestation is actually pain. And this is something I only recognized recently. I was going to physical therapy during the time that I lost my cat, and I was making a bunch of progress at the physical therapy. I was feeling a bunch better, and then we lost her. And my next therapy appointment, my pain, I was going for sciatic pain. It was just immensely intensified. And I remember my physical therapist, she was like, "Did you do something differently? Did you work out? Did you strain yourself?" And I was like, "No, I lost my cat." I was like, "I really think that this is somatic pain." And she's like, "Yeah, it definitely can be."
Mhm. And then on the anniversaries of certain things, that pain can come back to you. I know every
Yep.
September I got in, like, this terrible car accident in September, probably, like, 5, 6 years ago now, but it seems like every time during that time, like, my neck I got, like had a concussion, severe whiplash, and I feel that.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
I do. What did I? Oh, I think it was the anniversary of my dad's passing. I had forgotten that was the day, and I was just driving into work, and otherwise was very happy, like nothing was going on, and tears just started streaming down my face, and I'm
Mm.
like, "What is happening?" Like you're reading, the body keeps the score. Our body
Mhm.
holds on to these events and these emotions in ways that we don't even recognize with our brain, but it
Mhm.
will manifest in our body. It's wild. It's wild how that happens.
I know. I like being aware of it now, though.
Mhm. Yeah,
Even
and I
though
was like, "Oh, today is the day of his death. That's why
Mhm.
my body is
Mm.
releasing this."
Yeah, I couldn't imagine losing my dad. Ignorant
I also have oh,
Go
sorry.
I was just gonna say, sometimes though, like, ignorance is bliss. It's nice not to know certain things. I'm just very
Yes.
self-aware now, just of why I feel the way that I feel, even when we can't especially dealing with grief, when we're just so taken back and just, like, so sad and we can't control it. It almost makes it harder being self-aware of it and knowing the reason why because we still can't control it. I think we can do things
Right.
to soothe ourselves and the choices like, sometimes I'll won't soothe myself in healthy ways, whether it's, like, eating or
Mhm.
smoking or something like that. In other ways, like meditating, going for walks and such, I think you have to choose your ways to soothe yourself.
Yeah. And also not I mean, yes, we can choose the way we soothe ourselves, but I think I do a lot of times I'll use, like, eating or spending as a way to
Oh,
soothe myself.
spending, yeah. Good
And I, like,
lord.
recognize it,
Mhm.
but I still do it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just part of my healing journey, and maybe I'll get to a point where I don't do that, but I'm glad I recognize it at least.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's frustrating because a lot of times, like, you can't stop it, but you know that it's happening.
Mhm.
There are also some social manifestations, and we kind of mentioned them. You might withdraw. I know when I am grieving, I'm very withdrawn. I don't really want to talk to people. I just kind of want to go inward. You also might experience changes in your relationships because you're withdrawal. You might
Mhm.
not be as involved with your children as you were. You might, not be engaged in your relationships or your work like you were. And also it might cause you that anger part might cause you to lash out at people and they might not be understanding.
Yeah.
Conversely, you might seek connections. You might reach out to the people around you and ask for support. And I'm getting better at doing that with my husband. Like, if I know I'm down, I'm like, look, I need you. I need extra love right now. Like, I need to just be showered with love and affection because I am going through it.
That's beautiful if you have somebody there that can give you that during those times.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thoughts that people have about grief, and they're like, "Am I normal for feeling this way? Like, shouldn't I be over it by now?" Like,
Mm,
grief comes in waves and takes as long as it's gonna take.
absolutely. I still can barely look at a picture of my cat and not cry. I mean,
Mhm.
it hasn't been a year yet, but it's 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 long. And,
Yeah.
you got your good days and then you might have your days where it just hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah. Some people think, like, "I'm not sad. Does it mean I'm not grieving?" And it just means, like, maybe right now they're feeling other things, and maybe the sadness they're being suppressed, like, it's suppressed. Maybe they don't have time to deal with that sadness right now.
Mhm.
Uh, and like you said earlier, the numbness, maybe they're overwhelmed and it's like a shock. Uh, and hopefully people can take the time to sit with it and feel it and accept it.
Yeah. Do you have any coping mechanisms that can help us?
I think just sitting with it and feeling it, and whether you have to cry it out or talk it out or journal it, I think getting it out of you, being able to all this energy that your grief is creating, being able to like transmute that into something else. I think that would probably be I think everyone's coping mechanism is going to be a little bit different. Mine, I cry and I try to meditate and I remind myself like I still need to nourish my body. I still need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
I think when I'm grieving, I try to do that now more than anything that I'm still worthy of self-love even though I feel so terrible about whatever situation that's causing me grief.
Yeah. And it's okay to, maybe you're someone that doesn't normally seek therapy. It's okay to say, in this moment, I do need some support. There's also a lot
Mhm.
of grief support groups out there. If you just Google them, I found something really cool. Our hospice system in my health system, they have a grief counselor on staff, of course. And he started offering services to staff because we all grieve,
Nice.
different things. And so they have a grief support group, but they also were doing yoga for grief and they were
Oh, I
offering
like that.
that. Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." There is a yoga for everything, let me tell you that. If you just YouTube yoga for grief, yoga for whatever, you will
Mhm.
find it, and that's where really the somatics come into, helping that energy to move through your body because you don't wanna store it, you don't wanna keep it there forever so that it manifests in other ways,
Mhm.
but you also wanna feel it, even though that's very uncomfortable.
It is. You gotta feel it to
Another
heal it.
thing that's true. Another thing that have found helpful, I find myself when I'm coming out of it to be more creative and to express my pain or my grief through different forms of art or music.
Mhm.
I will say, definitely like in the loss of relationships, when I'm ready to just feel those feelings, I'll listen to some sad ass music and just like let it all flow.
Yeah. I feel like I don't know about I look at the attachment of relationships, romantic relationships differently now than what I used to. I used to be very heartbroken, devastated. The world is ending. I can't live without this person. Now I'm just like, oh, I see you, and it's okay that our time here together is now done. And it's sad, but then it almost excites me that I get to pour more into myself and the time that it was taking up in my life with this relationship that wasn't always emotionally fulfilling, and it obviously goes bad for a reason, so you start to feel not good in the relationship for quite some time before it actually ends. It's like once it actually ends, it's freeing to me, and then
Mhm.
I can spend more time with my family, be more creative like you said, creative outlets, whether it's dancing or painting or whatever, walking through the woods just to spend
Mhm.
some time with yourself. I think I it's important to grieve, and
Yeah.
it's also important to I love when I get signs from the universe that are in relation to what I'm currently grieving over or what I've grieved over in the past. Like ravens always make me think of my Nana. Whenever I see a raven, I don't get sad that she's gone anymore. When I see
Aw.
the raven, it's just always like, hey Nana, or anything Arizona makes me think about her. And now even like if I go somewhere that I experienced with an ex, it's like sometimes it's a good experience, sometimes it wasn't, but it's like, oh,
Mhm.
I still appreciate the experience we had here in this place together. Or I hear a song and it's just like you smile and it's just like I like remember listening to this song with them. I hope they're doing well. Just little things like that. I think
Yeah.
I try to shift my grief into like this positive energy where I really needed to experience them in certain times of my life and that point in my life. And now I've evolved and grown because of their presence and learned quite a bit. And my wisdom is now, you know, grown. So
Mhm.
I look at grief with a different perspective now.
And one of the things I found is, creating a way to honor specifically the deceased in your life,
Mhm.
turning those things that used to maybe make you sad and like you mentioned, finding a way to make it a beautiful thing. Like when I see a red cardinal, those are, historically significant of a loved one that's
Mhm.
visiting you, and just kind of saying, "Oh, hi, I see you there. I love you." I remember one time I got a reading from our psychic that we've used quite a bit, Cassie, and she was like, it was after I'd moved back down to Georgia here, and she's like, "Who's the guy in the car with you?" And I was like, "Ooh," like I was single at this time. Like I'm like, "What
Mhm.
do you mean? Like, it's just me and my car." She's
Yeah.
like, "He's older and he's just very concerned about your well-being and he's
Aw.
always with you whenever you're in the car." And I was like, "Oh, that's my dad." Like he was always my go-to for like anytime my car broke down, I'm like, "Dad, I'm on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
Come help me."
Aw.
And so anytime I'm in my car and I'm like missing him, I'll like look over at my passenger seat and I'm like, "I love you, Dad."
You're gonna make me
And I'm
cry.
gonna cry. I'm gonna cry myself, actually. And that's okay. Like, I think people have different relationships with crying. Like some people are
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I'll never cry." And it's such a therapeutic release to allow yourself to cry. I will say, like, when I bawl my eyes out, get horrible migraines. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I'll be like, I don't want to cry. I don't want to cry. I don't want to have a
Yeah.
migraine.
I have a better relationship with crying now. Like a lot of times I'm pretty stoic unless like my sense of humor comes out. I'm, pretty not I don't want to say flat, but pretty strong
Right.
when it comes to that. But now like if I feel emotional, I'll just release it. I don't try to, hold on to it. It is therapeutic
Yeah.
to cry for sure.
Hmm. I'm trying to see some other creative ways. Definitely practicing mindfulness, meditation can help you to kind of be in touch with those feelings and help to move them through.
Mhm.
My list does have avoid escapism, so limiting your alcohol and substance use during this time. I've definitely actually the friend that I've had to grieve that's still alive, when his mom passed, he took a turn for the worst, and that's where everything really went downhill with his substance use, and he never came back from that.
Mhm.
And it's devastating, and I get that, and I get that people use substances to numb the pain. I've heard people describe, drug use as a warm hug that they never got or that they're
Aw.
missing.
Yeah.
And I get that. I get why people would resort to that. if you have enough self-control to not do it, I definitely encourage you to find healthier alternatives.
Mhm. You mentioned therapy earlier. EMDR has helped me quite a bit. I've had to grieve things I didn't even know I was grieving over and process things. Yeah, I highly suggest that to anybody willing to try.
That's something we really didn't touch on, the grief within ourselves of like
Mhm.
maybe I know one thing I've had to grieve is not getting the childhood that I deserved and the things that happened to me during my childhood, and like being in touch with your inner child and grieving like what they needed,
Mhm.
and it's very, very powerful.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, grieving things that never happened, like the last relationship I was in, like we talked about getting married and having a baby and like buying a house together. It's like obviously none of those things are ever going to happen. And it was yeah, you have to grieve those things too, and it's accept it.
Yeah.
It's not just easy as saying that, but
No. I know, I feel like a lot of times we give everyone a lot of great advice, but please know that we're not saying it just expecting it to be easy, because
it's
none of it is easy.
not.
Change is not easy.
Mm-mm.
Taking care of ourselves is not easy. Being a human being is not easy.
No, and grief does come in waves, so just because I'm feeling okay today about a certain situation that's over and done with doesn't mean that tomorrow I won't cry about it.
Yep,
It's alright.
absolutely.
And I'll just voice
Yep.
text you and be like, "Bitch, I was fine yesterday."
Like that meme I sent you of Cardi B, and she's like, "Bitch, I'm losing my mind."
Yes.
Sometimes, some days it's like that.
Yes, it is. Well, now that you got me crying and it's good tears though.
Sorry.
It's fine. Don't be sorry. Do not be sorry. It's I mean, if we didn't feel grief, you know, what meaningful things would there would be no meaningful things really in our life if we didn't grieve their absence.
Absolutely. It
Even if
shows that you love someone deeply.
yeah. Even if they're no, for the people that aren't deceased that have to leave your life, even if they're no longer a part of your life anymore, they one time they really were, and I'm sure that they're grieving your absence as well. And so I think just sending, those people, I think that that is something I do as well. Like when I do get those thoughts and feelings about them, or like certain things trigger a memory about them, just sending them like a little love and a little light. Like, I hope you're doing well today.
Yeah, I love just being able to send them some
Mhm.
positive energy.
Yeah. Even try not to harbor so much resentment where you stay angry and hateful towards certain people, because I know that sometimes that's hard too.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Well,
We
I
hope
don't
y'all aren't going through it. But if you are, hopefully we gave you some tips on how to handle your grief, and just be patient with yourself.
yeah, and reach
Thank
out
you
to
for
your
listening.
community.
Yes, absolutely. Reach out to us if you don't have a community. We can be your support system as well.
Yes. Well, everybody have a wonderful, beautiful week. You can check us out on almost all major social media platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple,
All the things,
all the
except for
things.
Twitter.
Yes.
We're not there.
No, sorry. Namaste.
Sorry if you love Twitter. Namaste.